Many of our customers, when they first get their Kokatat dry suit or even the level 6 dry suits, any dry suit or dry top that has latex gaskets, oftentimes the customers feel that they're very uncomfortable because they can be very tight. You have to understand that these gaskets need to be designed for longevity, and over time they will stretch, so they come a little bit tight. If you can get past that tight feeling for the first couple of trips that you use your dry gear for, that gasket will stretch to fit your wrists and your neck. Pre-stretching is an option, and that's something we're going to show you today in this video. But I want to stress that when you stretch that, you're decreasing the life a little bit of that gasket. And if you can stand having that gasket a little bit tight for the first couple of trips, you're probably better off in the longevity of the gaskets. Now, typically, for some of the guys that I paddle with in Nova Scotia that do a little bit more paddling than I do, and some do a lot more paddling than I do, they're getting a life of roughly 3 years in saltwater use out of their gaskets. And that's being somewhat careful about not getting chemicals and things on those gaskets. Different sun protective creams and things can be detrimental to those gaskets, so you want to be careful what you get on there. Biggest thing we recommend is just clean the salt water off the suit with fresh water when you bring it in, and put a little lubricant on the zipper. You can get lubricants from McNett. One of the things that I use is just simple beeswax. It's a natural lubricant, and it doesn't hurt the parts of the suit around the zipper. So that's a very inexpensive and very environmentally friendly option. Not that the McNett stuff is environmentally harmful at all. It's easier to find, especially around here in New Brunswick, where there are beekeepers in Kingston Peninsula. There are a couple around the province, and you can get blocks of beeswax relatively cheap, and it's a great lubricant for those zippers. But you want to make sure you lubricate your zipper and clean the suit off, and keep chemicals off of those latex gaskets. So what we're going to show you next is a way to stretch these gaskets when you first get your when you first get your dry suit in, how to stretch these gaskets out so that they're not going to cut off the circulation as much in your hands and in your neck. When I first got mine, it was quite tight, but I left it, and I've had it now, we're going on to 3 years, and the gaskets are still in quite good shape. What happens, stretching sometimes can also result in premature dry rotting, because you're stretching that material out, you're stretching the grain structure in the latex out, which can result in dry cracking a little bit earlier. So you could see dry cracking. I'm starting to see some dry cracking now at the end of 2 years. So it'll dry crack, and then eventually it'll rip or tear. And the repair of the gaskets isn't a huge deal. You just need some aqua seal, and you need to know how to do it. And there are trained people around here in St. John. One of my friends in Nova Scotia, Peter Bajanic, he's very proficient at changing the gaskets. Or if you want, you can send them back to Kokatat for a nominal fee. Typically the shipping is more than the repair itself. So there are options there. But we're going to show you how to stretch them next. The easiest ways to stretch the gaskets in your dry suit is to place objects in it, obviously. One of the things that Kokatat suggests is something similar to this. This is just a Folgers coffee container. You stick that in there for roughly 12 to 24 hours. You don't want to stick it in there for too long, because you can stretch it out larger than your actual neck. Then you're kind of forced to replace that gasket. So you only want to keep it there for a short amount of time. 12 hours, check it, see how it fits. Keep it for a little bit longer if it's not quite stretched enough. It's going to be tight, it has to be tight, but you don't want it cutting off your circulation. I've got a couple of basically spaghetti sauce cans for the wrist gaskets, and again, you do not want to overstretch them, so you don't want to leave it in there for very long. 12 hours, check it. If it's a little bit loose, then you've gone too far and you're going to have to replace it. So you need to be very careful how long those stay in there. But again, I stress, if you can leave them alone and deal with them being a little tight at first, you're better off in the long run. But this is the one of the most viable options for stretching them. And again, 12 hours, 24 at the very most, but check it at 12 and make sure it's still tight. And if it's loosened up a little bit, maybe leave it right there take the stuff out, and go on your merry way.